Right, just going to do a quick plot tour on the 5th of September. So it's not been, I ain't done a plot tour in a very long time, because it's not been the most successful year that I was hoping for. But it's still been good. It's mainly the second plantings that haven't been as good. But we'll start off with this bed anyway. So I've got leeks in this bed, which hopefully should come late autumn, winter time, and hopefully survive the winter. Hopefully, fingers crossed. These are multi-sown clumps, so they're not going to have a large white stem, but they'll be more a long green stem. So not as sweet, but I'll just try it out this year, and if I prefer, if I don't like the flavour or it's not as sweet, then I'll do them differently next year, or I'll do a mixture of both. This is the beetroot bed for the second lot of beetroot, which at the minute it's slow. Hopefully I get some by late autumn into early winter, so we'll hope. This is a few brassicas. So these little ones are kohlrabi, which hopefully they come. Everything's just had a very slow start in the greenhouse, so they went out as very small plants very late. Something to do with the compost that I was sowing in. So, but hopefully they come. These are red cabbages, which they're doing nicely. Hopefully they'll heart up for going into winter. And then just at the end there, I've got some Calabrese broccoli, which is doing all right. So hopefully I've got some Calabrese for Christmas. Here are the parsnips, which are doing fantastically. They will hopefully be, they'll be good for going into winter. So I'll be harvesting them Christmas onwards, really. Here I've put some, just at the end, some I think it's coriander, just 2 rows, multi-sown clumps, which have set nicely. And then here are the onions and spring onions. For the onions to overwinter and swell up. Well, I'll harvest some spring onions to thin the clumps down, and then hopefully harvest actual onions in June, June time, to have an early harvest of onions. And then these will I'll be constantly harvesting throughout spring. Here, this has been a sorry soil bed. It's not been the best. So I've got a courgette there which hasn't produced a single courgette all year. And then these are the what they're called, sweet corn, which is nowhere near as tall as it should be, but there's a couple of cobs coming on. There's one there, and one there, one per plant, which I'm not fussed about. And then I've got a butternut squash plant here, which is just not done well. It's just been a sorry. So I don't understand why, because I've done the same no dig method as all of these beds, and all of these beds have been all right. So I'm not quite sure what's gone on here. This bed has, the other day I transplanted got some radicchio plants here, which are very small and almost look like weeds. So again, they should be loads bigger, but it's been a very slow start in the greenhouse. Here is some fennel, which is just getting its roots down. It's slightly starting to grow now. There's a third leaf on there, so hopefully that comes on. That should be ready late autumn. And then here we've got the labels this side of the bed. Pak choi, 2 rows of pak choi, which is apparently a quick grower, so we'll see. And then here we've got this is parsley, multi-sown clumps of parsley. Under the netting here we've got some radish. The reason it's under netting is because I did sow some round there, around the edge of this bed, which all got hammered by, I think it's flea beetle that eats them. So I'll just put it under there, and then I'll take it off towards probably a month once they've really established. Here is the celeriac, which again I'm not 100% sure because that should be loads bigger. You should be able to see a nice head forming, which there is a little head coming on there. A little head, I mean a little root coming on, but we'll see. Hopefully they swell up in time for Christmas. Here are the French dwarf beans, which have been incredible. They have just not stopped producing. They've slowed down now, started to die back a bit, but I've just left them in because, well, see if we can get a few more ready to. I'm probably going to freeze them. Here are the courgettes, which are humongous and have done very well. The yellow courgette, not as much. Not 100% sure. They get to about the size of, they get to about 4 or 5 inches, and then they just sort of rot at the end. So if anyone can tell me out what's the issue with that. Then I've got the normal green courgettes, which have done really well. I'll sometimes get a glut of them, and then they'll just stop for a little bit, and then I'll get a load more. But I'm not too fussed about that. Here is the celery, which again, that should have been ready 2 months ago. So it's just, I think it's because it's the first year. So because I'm doing no dig, if the beds haven't established yet. So once they've established, which will be next year, once it's got a top of compost on each bed, which is what you can see there. So this, from there, this side, I didn't put any more compost on. I just left it with what I put on in early spring. But this side of the beetroot bed, I put on more compost, and you can see the drastic difference. They are loads smaller than them. So next year, once every bed's got a top of compost, just an inch of compost or something, everything should grow a lot better next year. And also the weather's been all over the place, as we know. But yeah, they're coming. The celery is coming. Hopefully in another week and another month, they should start being harvesting. They're doing all right. They're not too bad. Here under this net, I've put some cauliflower, which went in very small, but they have established and they are starting to come. As you can see, it's very difficult to see, really. But yeah, they've hopefully, I don't know if they'll get a crop this year, but they should overwinter, and then I'll get some in spring. Should heart up in like late spring. Here are some turnips, which are starting to bulb up a little bit. So I've never had turnip, I don't think, so it's just to give it a little try. Here is the carrots, which I intersowed in between the lettuce, which was incredible. I had loads of lettuce. But the carrots, the first sowing just got annihilated, and then the second sowing has a sporadic germination, as you can see. But at least I'm going to get a couple of carrots. I've not had a good crop of carrots this year at all. Here, just a little block where there's little clumps are. That's spinach. I should get, once they're established, I should be harvesting them in about a month and a half. Have a couple of pickings, and then they'll overwinter, and then they'll carry on producing in spring, so basically they would have been in the ground for nearly 10 months, and then they'll bolt in June. Here I put some lettuce in. They didn't grow. None of my plants have done very well in the greenhouse, which you'll see in a minute when I take you down there. So the lettuce plant I was isolating for 10 days, and then I came back, and the lettuce plants were still in the plug trays, and they were tiny. They weren't growing at all. So I put them out, you could barely even see them in the ground. I'm surprised the slugs didn't eat them, but they have established. And hopefully in a month's time I'll be harvesting more lettuce. Here is the chard. It's a little bit of chard that should overwinter hopefully. And then if we go round, this is the grapevine, which has gone out of hand. I've not worked on it. Mum made a good, because the problem is there's a grapevine in between the raspberries, which is a bit of a pain. So I think what I'm going to do is keep the raspberries there. This is Mum's idea, and train the grapevine up, and then have the grapevine above the raspberries. So I'll train it along, and then maybe go down the fence a little bit. But that's one for next year. But they are coming. So I've got grapes coming. Nice bunches of grapes. So just waiting for them to swell up a little bit. Pear tree, as the pears are coming on. They're coming on nicely. Pumpkins, as you can see, some very nice pumpkins. This is the two sisters. I've got pumpkins along this bed, and then I've got beans along this arch. The beans are for, these beans on this arch are for, they're for dry beans for winter. Just to get a nice different crop. I've got so I'll have some food for winter. And then these are again runner beans, but I'm harvesting the actual pods and eating. So I'll eat everything. So I'll leave to dry. And then these I'm eating. Just continue and harvest. They've had tons of them. The climbing beans haven't done the best, as you can see. Only three have really come on. No, two, yeah. This one and that stick there, that cane, the beans on them have shot up, but everything else hasn't gone. I think it's lack of water. I've really neglected this part of the allotment, water-wise. Nice, getting a nice load of blackberries, not raspberries, blackberries. They're coming on now. The apples, they're coming. They've got some kind. They're very diseased. Ugh. Yeah, very diseased. Oh, that's all rotted. But hopefully I get something. They've just got diseased all over them, it looks like. So not sure what. I'm going to really cut that back next year. If I go round, as you can see, this is very neglected. This whole area. These grapes are coming, whether they'll swell up or not. I'm not getting a massive crop, but I don't know what. Never done grapes before, so hopefully I get a crop. I'll look it up over the winter, and then I'll take you down to this netted area actually. So we're in here. This is where the carrots were, which did terribly. They didn't grow very long, and they weren't thinned out. Here is some kale, which again you can see the size of them plants. They are tiny, but hopefully they perk up, they get going, and then just shoot away. I had a good crop of, well, they didn't get tight Calabrese heads, but they were all right. Here are the cabbages, which have done good. Not amazingly, I've had some decent cabbages off them, and they taste incredible. Massive difference with homegrown cabbage to shop bought cabbage. You can really taste the difference. Here are the Brussels sprouts, which again they went in very late and very small, but they've perked up, and hopefully fingers crossed I get a crop of Brussels sprouts for Christmas. This is the crop for today. Some cucumbers, some runner beans, courgette, cabbage and some tomatoes. So in the greenhouse. It's done incredibly well in here. Here I've just put some potatoes in for a Christmas harvest. The melons are coming. Getting just waiting for them to swell up. And I'm so happy with them. That was my favourite crop that I was going to grow this year, and they are coming, which I'm dead happy about. However, the watermelon has not. That's all it's grown this entire year. So I'll try it again next year, and then we've just got a little bit of basil, which hasn't done the best. But to be honest, I've not been harvesting it, so that's why. I'll put in a little bit of radish there. I had some spare plants and I just plonked them in. All of this side is cucumbers. Just step back, which have done really well. Could have got a lot more cucumbers off it, but hey-oh. There's only, well, 2 of us. I've been giving a few away. But they've been good. I've got quite a few. And then this side are the tomatoes, which are finally ripening. So there's a heck of a lot of tomatoes here, which hopefully all ripen by this year. Got the plum tomatoes, which are ripening slowly. They actually fall off before they've even ripened. So this one here, I'd estimate that'll fall off soon. Pepper plant here, sweet pepper. That's now flowering again. Not hoping for anything there. And then more tomatoes. And then, as you can see, I've got marigolds, which all around the garden there are marigolds and different flowers, just to attract insects and beneficial insects, but also it just looks nice. Just splashes of colour. I really like that. And then the propagation area, which I'll show you what I mean about everything being slow. So for example, what is it? These kale, all of this kale here, I sowed 30th of June, and that's how much it's grown. Like, it has not done anything. It's the compost is rubbish. This B&Q compost, really good texture, but the nutrients in it, there's no nutrients whatsoever. So I've just carried on using it, but next year I'm using a different one. And then I've just sowed some more lettuce and mustards and stuff like that. So that is the allotment. Early September, and I don't know when I'll next see you, because I said I'll see you. I'll be doing these monthly, and I have not, but I'll see you at some point soon.